Hi everyone, my name is Andrea. I'm with one of the trainers at Financial Edge, and I am here today with Mindey Dillon, who is the Global Graduate Recruitment Manager at HSBC. Hello Mindey, do you want to just introduce yourself before we get started?
Sure, thank you, Andrea. As Andrea says, my name's Mindey Dillon, and I am the Global Graduate Recruitment Lead for Global Banking and Markets, which is the investment banking arm of HSBC. So yeah, good to be here.
Fantastic. Mindey, what we want to talk about is a little bit the application process to both intern and graduate positions at HSBC within global banking and markets. And I think, people will be really interested to hear directly from you how they can actually make sure that their application is sort of top of the list for the recruiters to look at. So what I would love to start with first, could you outline the main steps to the application process and what is required of a candidate?
Sure, of course. Well, Andrea, we actually changed our whole selection process back in 2017 and moved away from competency-based recruitment to focus on strengths-based recruitment. We now hire based on the values, strengths, and behaviours that we feel aligned to the roles candidates are applying for rather than their previous experience. Therefore, we don't focus on CVs very much in our application process. Our process has been streamlined and automated to improve the candidate experience and really allows students to take control of their application. The end-to-end process includes a short application form, and successful candidates at this stage are invited to complete an online immersive assessment. The online immersive assessment is really engaging. It presents real life scenarios, real information to give candidates an insight into the role and to test their cognitive abilities. It's not specific to any business line or role. Now, assuming that a candidate meets our minimum threshold on this test, we then invite them to complete a second online test, which is called the job simulation. And this is specific to the role and business line that they apply for, and presents a mix of written answers and video responses. This really gives the candidate an insight into the role that they've applied for. And then the final stage is what we call a virtual experience day, which was previously referred to as an assessment centre. And this is a series of short exercises and interviews, which further assesses their suitability for the role and tests technical knowledge also. I guess the other thing I'd like to note is in our process, we do provide feedback. So after the first stage test, each candidate is provided with a personalised feedback report to really understand their performance on the test.
Got it. Fantastic. Wow. And so when you're talking about the virtual experience day, could you go a little bit more into this? So how many interviews would people go through? Does it vary across the different businesses? I know you're looking after banking and markets, but is it similar for all of the different businesses in terms of this approach?
Exactly. So the virtual experience day consists of a few interviews. One is a strengths-based interview, and the others are a motivational interview and technical interviews. So that's what comprises of the virtual experience day. But in addition to that, given the pivot to virtual, we want candidates to gain an understanding of our organisation, our people. So the day starts with a welcome from one of our senior colleagues. We share some insights into our organisation, talking about our key priorities, which include focusing on our strengths, focusing on the ESG agenda, and really bringing that to life for the candidates, and also providing them with an opportunity to take a virtual tour of some of our offices, because these assessments now take place virtually. So there's there's little opportunity to come and meet with us in person, but that works towards actually reducing our carbon footprint, which is obviously something that we're all focused upon.
And I presume you're going to stay with virtual experience days, are you?
I expect so. So. However, recognizing that it is also important to provide an opportunity for those that we recruit to come and visit us before they actually assume their roles. We are hoping to invite successful candidates to the offices that they will be joining ahead of starting their respective programs.
Okay, and knowing your building in Canary Wharf, it's nice to probably have a look around and see, okay, which floor am I going to be on and how do I get there, right?
Of course, it's such an iconic building, and it's always lovely to welcome new recruits into our building and show them around. So absolutely.
Fantastic. So you mentioned that they're going to have a technical interview as well. You know, what type of technical questions might they get asked, and how can they prepare for it?
Sure. So our recruitment process isn't biased towards any particular degree discipline. So what I really wanted to highlight is the fact that we welcome applications from students studying all degree disciplines. What's important for us at HSBC is that our candidates have a genuine motivation for wanting to join the business area that they're applying to. So the technical interviews would, I guess, that there would be an expectation for a candidate to complete the basic level of research in terms of understanding the role that they're applying for and what that entails. So in terms of preparation, what I would encourage candidates to do is research on the website. There's lots of information on our organisation, which is easily accessible. I would also encourage candidates to reach out to people from our organisation via LinkedIn and ask to have a quick chat to, again, build their understanding of the role that they're applying for, and also gain a feeling for our people and our culture. From a technical perspective, if one is applying for a role in investment banking, of course, it's an expectation to understand the basics of valuation techniques, as an example. So a basic level of understanding and also an understanding of what's happening in the financial markets and having a view on that. And that could easily be learned by following the news and having a view on the news. There is also access to free newspapers, the City AM for those based in the UK, and alternatives, Financial Times as an example. There are subscriptions that come discounted for students that I would encourage them to review, because our interviewers, our assessors will want to really hear about a candidate's view on what's happening in the markets and how that is impacting not only our organisation, but also the industry broadly. And then finally, I think that is also worth really understanding some of the financial transactions that the organisation has worked on and being able to talk about those as well.
Fantastic. That's a really great insight. In terms of obviously, you know, the application process starts earlier and earlier, but in terms of spring weeks, what's the structure of the spring week at HSBC, and what key skills are you looking for when you're assessing them during those spring weeks?
Sure. The Spring Insight program at HSBC is a 4-day program and takes place just before or just during the Easter holiday. Our program is designed to really demystify global banking and markets broadly. So we don't expect students to know the ins and outs of the different roles available to them. So over the 4 days that they spend with us, they have the opportunity to learn more about investment banking, global markets, sales roles, trading roles, and other roles within the investment bank to really make an informed decision. Candidates that apply to the Spring Insight programme have to complete 2 tests, the online immersive assessment that I spoke about, and then the job simulation, which is a broader assessment designed to test their cognitive and numerical ability. But they don't have to complete a virtual assessment centre for this role. What we do is really look out for those that stand out for us during those 4 days. Once they've made a decision as to which business areas of most interest to them, we ask them to submit an application for the Summit Internship Programme directly to that business area, where they complete a further assessment that is focused on that business, and that determines whether they secure a role onto our Summit Internship Programme. But this process is fast-tracked for our spring interns, so they have the opportunity to secure a Summit Internship before applications open broadly.
But so it would then be for a year later, wouldn't it?
Exactly.
Fabulous. Excellent. Can we talk a little bit about candidates in terms of just, understanding, what, how many applicants do you get for investment banking? Do you know off the top of your head?
I do know it's a lot. Look, it's a really competitive process, and hopefully this doesn't put candidates off. Globally, we're a huge global institution, and we receive around 24,000, 25,000 each year just for global banking, for around 360 vacancies. If we highlight London, which is where I sit, last year we received around 9,000 applications for around 130 roles. So it is hugely competitive. So candidates do need to do their homework, but this shouldn't put anyone off from applying.
So that's at intern level. And then in terms of full-time positions, obviously you will fill quite a lot of full-time positions from the interns, but do you have any statistics for full-time as well?
So the statistics that I just referenced were for full-time and internships. I guess what is also worth highlighting, Andrea, is the fact that we prioritize on recruiting the majority of our graduates following internship programs, certainly within global banking and markets. They are very distinctive roles, and I think it's really important that students or candidates make an informed decision as to whether they actually fit and enjoy that role. So we offer Summit internships, which are typically designed for penultimate year students, but we also offer another entry point, which is an off-cycle internship, which takes place from March until May. And if candidates are successful over those 10 weeks, they can go on to join the graduate program that very year, so they don't have to wait a year to join the graduate program. But I think it's really important for us as an organization to help students make the right career choice, and often the perception is different to the reality of assuming roles within investment banking specifically.
Yeah, no, I bet, absolutely. So if it's 9,000 for about 130, I think around 140 places, what should people avoid doing when they apply? So what are sort of red flags for HSBC when you get an application? Because you said you're not that focused on CVs, right?
Yes, we're not focused on CVs at all. So it's really about the performance during the online tests. So there is a video-based element on the one of the tests, which is a job simulation. So it's really about being their authentic selves. Don't second guess what we're trying to look for, but be yourself. We are really focused on strengths, and essentially a strength is an activity that is done well, done often, and feels good to those that engage in it. So when an individual talks about something that they genuinely enjoy, it is seen in their voice and how they express themselves, and that's what we're really looking at from the video interviews. So try not to be too nervous and try to be your genuine self, and really think about the question that is being asked. Given that they are virtual assessments, I think there are a number of things to consider in terms of the general IT setup. Make sure that you have a suitable webcam to ensure that you're able to present a clear, sharp, well-positioned image. Try not to use a tablet or a phone camera if you can avoid it. Make sure that you're looking straight at the camera. Make sure that you're managing the environment around you. And what is appearing in the frame of your camera. Make sure you test that it's working. There's nothing worse than completing a test and then your internet dropping out. So this is also all really important, and especially for candidates that do this in their homes where they're surrounded by family members. Make sure you write a note on the door saying that you're in an interview and please don't disturb from X time to Y time. I think that's really important. Tell those around you that this is important for you and that you need to focus. For those candidates that have pets, make sure that they're fed and walked so that they don't run in. Although that's entertaining when we come across those videos. It's nice to see those little distractions. And I think dress and appearance. Look, you want to dress the part for your interview. So make sure that you dress exactly the same way you would as you would for an in-person interview. So these are some considerations ahead of the interview and preparing for the interview. If I think about preparation during the interview, I think whether it's for the online tests that are video recorded, or the actual virtual assessment centres, body language, try not to fidget too much. It can be a distraction and won't, I guess, display the confidence that you want to portray. Work on posture. Slumping down in your chair or hunching isn't a good look, and again, it doesn't perhaps present an image of you being a competent professional. Try and sit up straight as much as you can. I really struggle with this sometimes, speaking clearly and slowly. A really common problem for anyone who's a bit nervous about speaking. This impacts the best of us. So whether at an interview, giving a presentation, or just talking to someone, going too fast is something that you should be aware of. And of course, nerves can make you rush through what you want to say. So practice wherever you can. In the virtual setting, Andrea, I think it is also very tempting to perhaps Google something that you're unsure of, but that will come across to your assessor. So I wouldn't encourage you to do that at all. I think I would recommend for candidates to keep any notes that they may need in front of them. That may just be to sort of just to provide some comfort during the interview, but make sure that you're not Googling and you're not fidgeting at all. And then I guess finally I'd say try and stick to the question. The key to giving a good interview answer is to be confident, to be concise and direct. And I often tell candidates to focus on the STAR technique, which allows you to really structure your response. So situation, task, action, and result. And this normally provides the information that the assessor is looking for.
Fantastic. That was fantastic. So is every video interview then reviewed, or every recording reviewed by a person at HSBC? So you're not using some algorithm which throws up people if they use the wrong language or whatever?
Yes, that's a myth, and I want to dispel that myth. We personally look at every single video that is submitted as part of our application process. So it's really important that you don't lose your unique personality. We want to see that coming through. It's not an algorithm, it's not based on AI.
I think that's, Mindey, that'd be welcome news to a lot of people, right? Because that myth going around the market is just terrible. So when we come back to the virtual sort of assessment center, you know, a virtual experience day, what makes an applicant stand out then? Because they obviously have gone through that first part already, but what makes it stand out for you?
So we focus on a strengths-based interview approach. So I think preparation is key. For the strengths-based interview, I think a candidate should really focus on answering a few basic questions. What are they good at? What do they learn quickly? What things give them energy, as a few examples, and also a real understanding of what they're not good at as well. So that's for the strengths interview. I think just understanding what one's own strengths are and what one's own areas of development is really important. But also just to be open, relaxed, and Joe, to be themselves in that interview is really important. It's not one that you can overly prepare for, but just a basic understanding of things that you enjoy and prefer versus those that don't excite you as much. Is important. And then from a technical perspective, Andrea, I think, as I said earlier, Joe, reading financial reports from the website of the companies that a candidate's interviewing for, following the financial news, connecting to colleagues on LinkedIn, fully researching the company, understanding their values, understanding the business area that they're applying for and what the role actually entails is a good starter.
Yeah, no, I agree, absolutely. And are they assessed against HSBC values and competencies?
They're embedded
in competencies, I should say, shouldn't I?
Sorry, Andrea, I missed that.
Are they assessed against HSBC values to see if they fit into the organization?
Yeah, our values are embedded into our whole selection process. So we're testing fit into our organization, which are focused on our values, and then also the strengths that candidates demonstrate, and the alignment of those strengths to the roles that they're hoping to secure.
Got it. Okay, fantastic. So what if I can't decide if I want to try banking or markets or sales and trading? Is there a rotational program I can do as an intern applicant?
Unfortunately not as a summer intern, and not as an off-cycle intern. The only opportunity that we have to really understand the differences between each role is during a Spring Insight program. So my advice would be to try and secure a Spring Insight program if you are able to. And if not, then really do your research in trying to seek out graduates that have been in your shoes not so long ago, who went through the same decision-making process and perhaps can help you sort of demystify each area a little bit more and think about the strengths that would apply for each specific role, so that you can make a much more of an informed decision.
Got it. Okay. And I think also using networks really in universities, right? Because being such a big organization, it should be relatively easy to identify people who were at the same uni.
100%, definitely. There are so many relevant clubs and societies at universities. So that would be a key recommendation also. While still at university, definitely engage with those university clubs and societies who, as you say, have huge networks and no doubt alumni that have secured internships in different roles at the institutions that you're hoping to work in for information and insights. So the more you do that, the better.
Yeah. Do you often hear about target universities in the banking sector? Is that the same for HSBC, or do you just, want applicants really from every single university possible?
We welcome applications from every university possible. I think the reality is, Andrea, there are so many, there are thousands of institutions globally that we could target, but it's just not realistic to target every single university. So we do have to adopt a targeted approach somewhat to allow us to build a deeper level of relationship with those institutions. That's not to say that we are closed off to receiving applications from other candidates. And as you will have heard throughout this conversation, we do not look at a CV. So we do not look at the background of a candidate applying to us to determine whether they secure a role at HSBC. It is based on their performance across our recruitment process. So yes, we do have target universities, but those are only to allow us to complete activity on campuses, because we just cannot get to all campuses globally. Yeah.
Absolutely. So that sort of leads to my next question, in terms of how you differentiate yourself as HSBC in your recruitment process with other players in the market. And I think you might have answered it already in terms of you not looking at CVs, but I'd love to hear your view on how HSBC is different compared to other financial institutions.
Sure. So I think one of the key differences is the fact that we're not looking at previous experiences to determine whether a candidate is suitable for a role at HSBC. What we have done is really reflected upon the strengths that are needed and the skills that are needed for each of the roles that we have available. And then we look to identify candidates that align to those strengths through our recruitment process. We're a huge organization, and we recognize that some candidates applying to us just won't have access to those experiences. They won't have access to the networks that allow them to speak about those experiences, which is why we are focused on a strengths-based approach, and we really do look to hire for potential. The other thing that I feel differentiates HSBC is the fact that we want to give back to the candidates who have invested their time in submitting an application to us. So at this first stage of the process, once a candidate has completed that test, we provide them with bespoke feedback that will help them learn more about themselves, whether they're successful in continuing in our process or not. So if a candidate has been unsuccessful, we are committed to providing them with feedback to hopefully help them submit a stronger application to another organisation and learn a little bit more about themselves. Unfortunately, given the volumes of applications we receive, which I mentioned earlier, we can't provide feedback at every stage of the process. However, we also do it at the final stage after a virtual assessment centre as well, a virtual experience day. So regardless of whether a candidate has been successful in securing an offer, we are committed to providing comprehensive feedback on their performance after the process is complete.
Oh, that's fabulous. And that's so valuable, rather than just saying, no, thank you, and no reasons behind it. So that's fantastic. Excellent.
Yes.
So that just gets me really to the end of it. It's just, I've got one more sort of final big question. What are your top 3 tips for applicants? Right. So anything, to best prepare for that whole application process. So a little bit of a summary, to be able to be successful within the HSBC application process.
Sure. So at the moment, Andrea, and certainly from the beginning of September, if not earlier, through until the application deadlines, my team run a number of events. At the moment, they're virtual events, but in a pre-COVID environment, we were physically on campus. I would encourage candidates to go along to some of those events to really understand a little bit more about the business line that they're looking to work in, and there's some sessions on the application process. There are sessions on commercial awareness, and there are lots of upskilling sessions that we run to better prepare our candidates when submitting an application to HSBC. So that would be the first thing. The second thing I would say is don't wait until the application deadline to submit your application to us. We work on a rolling basis. So do make an informed application following attendance at an event or from completing your own independent research, but do so in a timely manner. And then thirdly, I would say just take on some of the tips that I referenced in this conversation. Do your research, speak to as many people as possible, and really think about why you want the role and why you want to join the organization that you've applied for, and make sure that you keep track of the applications that you're submitting as well. I think that is also really important. As a seasoned recruiter, I've been working in early careers for over 15 years now, but one of the things that I see too often is reference to another organization incorrectly. So in the midst of submitting as many applications as possible to try and secure that internship, and we know it's very competitive, referencing the wrong organization is a no-no as well, and doesn't reflect well, and doesn't highlight your ability to focus on the attention to detail, which is really a crucial skill in this industry.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, God, how embarrassing. Fantastic. Mindey, is there anything I should have asked you want to add?
No, I think it's been a really good conversation. I think, look, we don't be put off if you don't have previous work experience. I get that. I get asked that often. Don't be put off if you're an international student working studying in the UK and you think that you can't apply for an internship at HSBC because you don't have the work authorization. We sponsor visas at HSBC and will obviously support you with that. And if you're interested, apply now. Apply sooner rather than later. And we want to get to know your personality, so make sure that shines through when you're completing our processes.
Super,
Thank you.
fantastic. Thank you so much, Mindey. That was really great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.